tell me one thing that you love about Miss Mary.
She's so dazzling, kind, and good. Good ETA. Good ETA.
Good ETA.
But we can't speak in English, but because we're scared of our grammar. Grammar mistake.
Cause the family was wearing on her nerves.
What I really want right now is to be confident in myself, to not have these insecurities in myself, and for everyone else to accept who I am. I'm trying right now.
Okay, thank you for the ETs, okay, for to come to our school.
Great, I'm very impressed of myself because I can speak well. Even my voice like this, but I can speak very well. Thank you very much to all of my friends. Bye.
Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. Anda sedang menonton tadi cubisan video yang menunjukkan tentang impak ataupun kesan daripada adanya mereka-mereka yang sanggup meluang, mengorbankan sebahagian masa mereka, hidup mereka setahun untuk berada di negara luar termasuk Malaysia untuk membantu bukan sahaja dalam mendidik dan mengajar bahasa Inggeris tetapi juga untuk merapatkan jambatan hubungan, komunikasi, pemahaman dan juga persepsi di antara Malaysia dan juga Amerika Syarikat. Untuk itu saya ingin memohon izin untuk berbicara dalam bahasa Inggeris. I'd like now to welcome Catherine and Samuel. Catherine Paul came all the way from United States of America just to be in Jengka, Pahang.
Yes.
And Samuel has roots in Malaysia. Malaysian parents migrated to America and he's fully American in that sense, born there and everything else, right? But you're back here to give back to society, maybe I can put it that way. And he's in Sarawak and loving it. He came back for the second time because you sent for 1 year for ETAs or English Teaching Assistants under the Fulbright initiative of the U.S. State Department. But I'm going to go straight away to Samuel first, give you a chance because he's a veteran now. So Samuel, why Malaysia? Why do you choose to go and be included in the Fulbright English Teaching Assistant program?
Mm-hmm. So part of it was what you already mentioned. My family is from Malaysia. My family is Chinese Malaysian from KL. And I always wanted to explore my roots in Malaysia, to really learn what it's like to be Chinese in Malaysia. So I came partly for that reason. The other part is I've always wanted to be a teacher.
Okay.
I was an elementary school teacher in America, and I love teaching. That's one of my really big passions. So I wanted to try something different, to come to Malaysia to teach English.
Okay. Yeah. So, but not Kuala Lumpur, you know, all the way to the East Malaysia side.
Right.
And Sarawak is bigger than the whole of the peninsula.
Right. Yeah.
And how has it been for you the first year?
It's been really great. So none of us can teach in KL. We're all posted to all sorts of different rural placements all throughout Malaysia. Pahang, Perak, Sarawak, Sabah. My year in Sarawak was really great. I got to meet a lot of really great people. Obviously, eat a lot of delicious Malaysian food. Okay. Love Malaysian food.
Can't get that in New York hardly. Okay, Catherine, from the Bronx.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
New York.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been to Rwanda and your studies there on peace building and stuff like that.
Yes.
And it always amazed me how the young people in America sort of, it's almost like practically have no qualms about going out and putting themselves into initiatives like this, going far away from where they were born and where their families are. But I guess for you it's second nature because first it was Rwanda and then now it's in Malaysia.
Yeah. I have a rich family history of traveling. My dad's in the Navy, and so he's been all over the world. My grandfather was in the Navy, so he's been all over the world. And my mom worked for the Department of Homeland Security in the U.S. and actually was stationed in China. So we lived in Beijing for about 3 years. And I got the travel bug, I would say, from them. So I'm continuing on my own path now, and I'm really excited.
Before we go to the youngsters in Malaysia and the impact that you have on them and they have on you, I'm sure you get asked this question a lot by not just the students, maybe the communities, because ETAs have to establish rapport and build bridges with the community where you will be posted. So I'm sure question about 9/11 and a lot of things regarding views towards this side of the world, especially the Muslim side of the equation. So sometimes when you're not here yet, you tend to have perceptions. So what perceptions did you have that were broken the moment you arrive here and you get immersed with the community?
I mean, coming into it with a very open mind, of course, I like to think I'm someone who's very well educated, and so I don't believe that 9/11 had anything to do with anyone I'm meeting here or any of the work I'll be doing here. I think every country has its own tragedies, and it also has its own strengths, and I believe that I can share both that from the United States and also learn a lot about that in Malaysia.
So being in a mainly predominantly Muslim community in Jengke is almost the same like being in Rwanda, except for certain rituals, practices, and understanding, for example. But basically, it's about reaching out to people.
Yeah, exactly. It's sharing your story, sharing what you know. But I mean, in any sort of situation I've been in where I've been placed and told, oh, this is what you should give back to the community, this is what you should teach, I've really found that I learned the most in those situations. And so I'm really excited to see what I can do.
Were you surprised by what the local community know about America?
Yes, of course. I mean, a lot of what local people from any country I've been to, they know a lot about it from pop culture. And I can't say I'm as hip with the pop culture in the U.S. as most people I meet. But I think that I can, I hope to offer more of a in-depth American experience.
Cool. We're going to go for the first break, but once we are back, I'm going to put Samuel on the spot now. And I think you're very keen to look at the Asian American dynamic, for you especially because it's in your blood. So if I look at your CV and the things and the exploits that you're active in Southern California and in America, is being involved in the Asian American based organization or those that look at that particular aspect and issues. So having been here, so how do you look at that now, and what new bridge that you can build to bring us closer, not geographically, but in terms of understanding? That we'll discuss right after this short break.
I'm from Alabama. My name is Corey.
I am from New York, and I'm a teacher certified from New York. So I'm really excited. I did Asian studies as well in school. I'm from Indiana in America. I grew up in a really small town. Went to college, student taught in Germany. I student taught at an Air Force base, so they were U.S. children. And then I applied for this grant.
And I taught for a year in a classroom in America teaching English as a second language to Hispanic children.
So I think it's really important to kind of like motivate students to learn English by introducing games or creative styles of learning.
We're in a very rural area, and I'm really just excited to get in the classroom and use music and games and all different sorts of arts and crafts and things. I'm really excited to meet people of other cultures and learn about them and learn what they do day to day.
MACE, the Malaysian American Commission on Educational Exchange, and the Malaysian Ministry of Education, MOE, supported of course by the US Embassy. The US Embassy is behind here somewhere. and we have seen, I think this is the 10th year where the English teaching assistants are here to help. And if I look at the data sent to me, if you look at the map of the world, it's only in minimal countries like Malaysia where there's many ETAs as compared to some other countries which only have 4 or 3 or 5. So this is an important initiative for us. But before I go to the English side of the equation, I like to look more at the human experience. And I guess that's very powerful. And every time Malaysians, for the first time, they set foot on US soil, that will be also the experience that they will bring back. So for Samuel, and Sam, you've been looking at this personally, professionally for a long time, the Asian American equation. So after being here again, how do you look at it?
Yeah, that's a really big question. So being Asian American in Malaysia is very different, right? Since I look Chinese, it's very easy for me to pass as a Chinese local Malaysian. Yeah, and a lot of my students, when I first went to their school, they said, "Wait, why is there a new Chinese Malaysian guy at our school?" And that's something
before they hear you speak.
Yeah, exactly. So I think for me, it's more interesting to try and change their perception of what America is and who can be an American, right? So America is filled with lots of beautiful and vibrant immigrant communities, and since I'm Chinese Malaysian or Chinese American with a Chinese Malaysian background, I can show them that even someone who's from Malaysia, Chinese Malaysian, can go to America.
So you're selling the American dream to Malaysians in the 21st century.
Not exactly, but people can say that to some extent. But it was more just like sharing that there are lots of immigrant communities in America, and America
especially
looks
in New
very
York.
different. Yeah, especially in New York. New York is an immigrant city. So looking at the Asian American perspective, I can share a lot of my own experiences, and that's something that a lot of my students can relate to.
What's the main questions that a student will throw back at you once you tell them all this story?
All the background story. The main questions usually comes down to, so what's New York like? Have you been to the Empire State Building? Have you been to Statue of Liberty? But then it's
so
also
they
like,
do know the Empire State Building stuff.
They do. But then it also comes back to, so tell me more about your Chinese Malaysian background. Tell me about your family. And that becomes a really good way to relate to my students. They can see myself in them. I can see them in myself. Just that's a really good way to relate and to
the
make those connections.
multicultural aspect, in New York, as compared to many other places in America, it's a bit more multicultural and plural in that sense because of the heavy infusion of the migrant community. So how do you look at that in comparison to Malaysia? Because we like to see ourselves as that also. We're very, very proud that we've managed to bring this country to where it is, despite the very varied background of our population.
Yeah, there are definitely parallels between New York City and between America and Malaysia with those huge immigrant backgrounds. If you look at Malaysia, Chinese, Indian, Malay, different Dayak, Orang Ulu, indigenous populations, and then America with Native Americans, Asian American, Black, Latino, white, all these different races. Yeah, there are definitely a lot of parallels to be drawn, and I think it's really interesting for my students to see that because they love to see that they can fit somewhere in that kind of American picture. That this is not something that's completely new to them. That this is something that they experience every day. Immigration and meeting people from different cultures and exchanging those different cultures with each other as well.
So have you taught Catherine some Malay words or Sarawak words?
You can say Selamat Padu Pagi or Aniagamu. A shout out obviously to all of my students who are in Serian in Sarawak right now.
I hope they're watching. Catherine.
Yes.
Felda is one of also our pride and joy because it's a land development scheme that we started decades ago and has shown that it's progressed, it's brought this country ahead in certain respects. So how do you look at them? Because it's within a large area, but there's not, the density of population is quite small.
Yes.
So maybe everyone would know you, for example.
Yes, yeah. It'll be very interesting. I'm kind of excited, just mainly because I've grown up, I spent all my time in cities my whole life. I grew up in Washington, D.C. I lived in the Bronx for 4 years, going to Fordham University. I then moved to Oakland, California for a year to work. So this is going to be a change. It's going to be a very rural area, and I'm excited.
We have internet.
Oh, of course. Yes.
We're going to go for the last break, but once we are back, let's talk about English now, and how that's not only a language, but it's also a tool to bring the world closer nowadays, and how do you motivate that to very young people, especially not in city centers. That has been a challenge for us in Malaysia, and how to bring up to speed English in the rural areas as compared to the urban one. We'll discuss that right after this break. So for this block, I'm going to go ladies first. For Catherine, how do you hope to bring the appreciation of English here, especially in the rural area? Because many people don't see it as just a language anymore, but it's a powerful tool to connect around the world.
Well, I just want to make it fun. It's my number one goal. I really enjoyed learning language in school just because I had really wonderful teachers in my high school and in my college that made learning really, really entertaining. And that's how it really stuck with me a little bit more. So, yeah, that's
You're
my...
going to use a lot of psychology, though, aren't you?
Maybe a little bit.
That's your
Psychology of
background.
learning. Yes, my background is in psychology.
But I'm sure they'll be very interested to hear your stories about the humanitarian works done in Rwanda and Africa.
Yeah. I think storytelling and just really like sharing your personhood.
Bring the world to them.
Exactly.
You know?
It's really quite a small world once you start bringing people together. And I think English is a great tool. To really let people get to know one another. So, but also not to neglect the beautiful languages that already are here. I don't think that English should negate those other languages, but I think that
use
English
Google Hangout and bring more friends for them to see. You know?
Exactly. Yeah, we can Skype people.
Cool. That would be very cool.
Yep.
Sam.
Yeah.
For you.
So for me, I think English in our constantly super fast globalizing world, English is a really definitely important tool. For me, I love cooking, and food is something that I'm really passionate about, and I think it's something that can also bridge...
You cook Asian food?
I do. Cook a lot of Asian food.
Let's go and visit you in Sarawak.
You should. So for me, food is a great way to bridge people, to bridge communities, to bridge cultures. So last year, when I was in ETA at SMK Tarat in Seri and Sarawak, I did a Top Chef English cooking camp. So I taught some kids some American recipes like macaroni and cheese and eggplant parmesan and how to make cookies. And that was a really interesting way and a really different dynamic way to bridge these different cultures and to bridge these different histories.
Would the adults around the area also ask you to have night classes for them?
I do get some requests.
The whole community
I do.
right?
I have teachers always ask me for my recipes. Sometimes it's a secret. Sometimes I just give it away freely. So
cool.
It's a really great way to share, share culture and stuff.
I'm sure going forward, and now it's such a globalized world, I'm sure you'll be updating your circle of friends in America about what you do here and stuff like that. And what would be the main queries given to you? And when they know that you're coming over to Malaysia, for example, what would be the main questions asked to you, folks back home?
Yeah. Well, right now, since it's winter and quite cold, I think one of my friends was telling me it was 9 degrees in Fahrenheit in New York the other day, and they're going to be asking how nice is that weather, and I'll be saying it is very, very nice, and I'm very happy to be here. So that's probably the first question, and then also what is it like to be a teacher? I don't have a strong background in teaching in secondary school. I've worked with kind of smaller children before, so kind of just about my general experiences, what the culture is like. What it's like living in kind of a small rural area. So questions like that.
There's still a bit of flood in Pahang, so you could get involved in a lot of things actually.
I really hope to.
And so have you had time to trace your roots here?
A little bit, yeah. I've had some time to visit some family here in Malaysia, and it's been a great experience meeting them since I've been in America for so long.
Long lost cousin from
exactly.
New York.
Who is this guy? We're just meeting this guy first, yeah. So I've had a lot of time to trace my roots in Malaysia, and it's been really great. Yeah.
And people have always said, I'm not saying this because I want to sell Malaysia to your friends, but we're quite warm as a community to outsiders coming in. It's within our belief and it's within our culture to accept people from the outside as one of our own. Have you found that to be true?
Absolutely, especially in my wandering, I've gotten lost a few times. I've taken a few wrong turns, and people have pointed me in the right direction, which is very important. So everyone's been really welcoming and really warm. And
Samuel?
Yeah, same thing. I felt super welcomed when I first came to Malaysia, and then as I spent more time in Sarawak, the community was extremely welcoming, extremely open. I got a lot of chances to visit people in their homes, to visit people's longhouses and villages. So that was a really eye-opening experience, and just feeling like you're at home in a completely new place is something that's really amazing.
Maybe you might be reversing the migration trend.
Thinking
US
about
back here.
I gotta come back to Malaysia.
You're still single, right?
Yep. Yeah. So
there's always a chance. So we only have one minute left. So I'm going to give you a chance to again do a shout out to your students back there in Sarawak. So all yours.
Okay. So just wanted to say hi to all of my students at SMK Tarat in Serian, Sarawak. Most of you know that I'm back in Malaysia this year, but just wanted to let you all know that I will also be coming back to SMK Tarat. So look forward to having me as your teacher again this year.
And more MasterChef cooking.
Oh yes, and definitely more cooking. So it'll be really great.
Catherine, shout out to the students and community in Jengka, Pahang.
Yeah. So shout out to Jengka Lepan Belas. I'll be at Jengka 18 this year. So for my future students and colleagues, hello, and I can't wait to meet you all.
Thank you so much, Sam and Catherine, for making time to be on Agenda Awani.
Thank you.
You can retweet my tweets. please have a Twitter account. So, terima kasih banyak kepada anda telah menonton dan kepada mereka yang berada di Felda 18 hingga Jengka Felda 18 dan juga di Serian, Sarawak, bolehlah menunggu kedatangan dua orang ETA sini, English Teaching Assistants, dan kita akan terus mengikuti. Harapannya mereka akan kembali ke sini untuk membicarakan tentang pengalaman mereka sebelum mereka menghabiskan jangka masa mereka berkhidmat di sini. Hantarkan pandangan anda sendiri kepada pelbagai platform yang Astro Awani ada. Kita ada Facebook, Instagram, Twitter dan sebagainya, ataupun terus buat turun aplikasi Mudah Alih iOS dan Android supaya anda boleh menonton dan juga memberikan komen secara langsung di gadget Mudah Alih anda. Sekian, selamat malam, terima kasih, jumpa lagi. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.